Your dad was an inventor.
Yes.
What did he invent? Anything we would know of?
He invented a great many things, none of which worked. Some of them were very successful. He invented something called the picnic, which was a square box into which everything fitted for your outing under the trees, which included a salt cellar which collapsed. That meant there couldn't be any salt in it. Things like that.
Yeah.
And the war came along, the First World War, and every American soldier had to have it in a knapsack. So, of course, my father was fabulously rich on the picnic. This useless box of toys went over there with all our boys. And then he invented one of the early airplanes. He was an automobile manufacturer. He'd raced some of the early automobiles. And in fact, a picture I made, Ambisons, is partly based on him, not by me, but by Tarkington, who wrote the book, who was a friend of my father's. And my father was a kind of mad playboy. He was well along when I was born. He was in his late 60s when I was born, so we went back to older and happier times. And when the Wright brothers came up with this thing, he said that that was a very good idea, but there was a basic fallacy, which was having the engine in the plane. Any fool could see that the airplane should be light enough and the engine should be on the ground, you see. So he built an airplane which was in effect a sort of glider. And a friend of his, it wasn't his own car, had a Stanley steamer, which was the automobile worked by steam, you know, and with big wheels that could go over rough ground. And this plane was hauled along by the Stanley steamer with one of my father's servants as the pilot. He said it wasn't time yet for him to go up. He was going to try it out on the help. So there are two pictures I have. One is everybody lined up before in front of the Stanley steamer and the glider, looking very happy. And the second one is the wreck of the airplane, with everybody lined up looking just as happy.
That airplane is now known as the Super Chief on the Long Island Railroad.
But he liked to call himself an inventor because what he was, he came from an epoch in which you should pretend to be a great tycoon. You mustn't say you're a playboy. He was just a playboy. He inherited some money and he spent it. That was what he did. So he put down, I'm an inventor, so it would be respectable. And these fantasies came up through the years. He was also a very lucky gambler. He really broke the bank at Monte Carlo. And he lost money all the time in business and made it up gambling, which is an interesting switch.
Yes, it is.
And in fact, it was in Kenosha where he was manufacturing some mysterious object that I happened to come into the world.